Welcome to the TDCC Community Live webinar.
TDCC stands for the Developing Child Center located in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, UAE.
Established in 2012. We have been providing personalized support to over 1,000 children. We have 60 dedicated and committed experts, and we work closely with parents and schools to ensure no child is left behind. We think different, we teach different. We empower, not limit children. Labels like autism, dyslexia, and ADHD are not relevant or perceived as disabilities, difficulties, or disorders that limit children's abilities. We believe that brilliance needs difference. The TDCC services are available in English, French, and Arabic. The inclusive educational services nurture and support the developmental and educational needs and help empower each child to reach their full potential. Occupational therapy assists children in performing and achieving important learning and developmental skills they need in life. Psychomotor therapy is a healthcare profession that is based on a holistic view of the person and is involved in the treatment of different disorders. Speech and language therapy assists children who have disorders of speech, language, communication, and swallowing. Psychology provides both educational and clinical services, including counseling and parenting. ABA therapy focuses on improving specific behaviors. It is commonly practiced as a therapeutic intervention for individuals with autism. Specialist learning support. We assist in developing the academic and social development of students who need support in all these areas. And we design and host local and international training and workshops for practitioners, parents, caregivers, and educators. Just like this one today. We have a few rules to follow during the webinar. Please remain muted while the speaker is presenting. Please give your full attention to the presentation. We will be sending you the replay, so you can review at any time. Please be interactive if the speaker requests your participation. During the question and answer session, we kindly request everyone to type their questions in the chat box and the speaker will address them.
Welcome to TDCC's 57th live webinar, Math Made Easy, Boosting Your Child's Numeracy Skills and Confidence. TDCC is honored to welcome back Debbie Gilmore, a dedicated educational leader, for another insightful session in our webinar series. As the Executive Director of the Aerosmith program, Debbie brings a wealth of experience as a teacher, principal, and administrator. With a master's in education and graduate certifications in diverse learning, she is deeply passionate about the brain's role in learning and student success. Debbie has been a strong advocate for integrating neuroplastic programming into education to enhance cognitive functioning and foster lifelong learners. She pioneered an initiative to bring the Aerosmith program to schools and has since led its strategic growth, championing its transformative impact on students' lives. As both an educator and a parent, Debbie has witnessed firsthand the life-changing potential of the program for students and the communities that support them. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our speaker, Debbie Gilmore.
It's really lovely to be with everyone today, and thank you so much for joining us from all around the world. It's very exciting. So what I hope to do today is answer some questions that people sent through to Mylene and the team. So we hope to do that. I hope to answer some questions and also to invite other questions at the end. So let's get started. Here we go. As Mylene talked about, this is a series of webinars that I'll be giving over the next couple of months. And it seemed that mathematics was a very hot topic for today. So I'm pleased that we're able to do that first for you. And thank you for all of those people that sent in the questions. This is what I hope to cover today. Math Made Easy, boosting your child's numeracy skills and confidence. And in doing that, I'm going to unpack what is mathematics? What do we understand by mathematics? What lies beneath mathematical tasks? What is dyscalculia? What is arithmetic? And then Emma, I'm going to hand over the screen to Emma, and she's going to talk about arithmetic that is being offered by the Developing Child Centre. And then we'll get to your questions. So what is mathematics? Well, mathematics can be broken up into various different abilities and skills. But actually, there's a term called numeracy, which is a 21st century learning skill, which is actually more than mathematics itself, which mathematics being like an academic subject in school. Numeracy is all about finding, understanding, and using mathematical information that's presented in words, numbers, or symbols and graphs. So it is a broader concept than mathematics. And in fact, numeracy is a 21st century learning skill. It is one of the skills that the World Economic Forum tells us that our students will need in the future for their futures across this century. You'll also see in that 21st century learning skills, under those foundational literacies, you will also see scientific literacy, ICT literacy, financial literacy, which also involves mathematics. So I'm making that distinction there between numeracy and mathematics. In mathematics, these are some of the subject areas or the components of mathematics that you might be familiar with in an academic mathematics curriculum. I'll leave you to have a look at some of those there. These are these are some of the questions people sent through on these very particular mathematical subject subsections. Mathematics is also about making meaningful connections between concepts, ideas, understandings. It's about problem solving, using those connections of concepts and problem solving those with the right tools and procedures. It's also about communication, communicating using language, visual representation, symbols, graphs, maps, etc. And it's also about connecting, using maths and models, situations or events to explain complexities in the world. And an example there is about the impact of global climate change. That's all about using mathematical concepts, those concepts across other fields. What does mathematics look like in the real world? Well, these are aspects that we might be using in our everyday lives. Time management, budgeting, cooking, in sports, in fitness, in transportation. All of these ideas that I have here on the screen are all about using mathematics. So again, not really the mathematics we use in school, but using what we learn in mathematics at school in our everyday lives. And there were a number of questions that came through about mathematics in real life. And how do we help students understand that, our children understand that? So let's have a look at what lies beneath those mathematical tasks. What's happening in the brain when someone is doing a mathematical task? At Arrowsmith, we like to talk about, we go underneath concepts. We go underneath and see what is in there, what's happening in the brain when certain tasks are being asked of all of us. So we call that a cognitive lens. So let's use a cognitive lens on mathematics. What we know is the brain is involved in all tasks that we do, no matter whether those tasks are simple or whether they're complex. What's happening in the brain is different networks of the brain are coming together to problem solve, to find solutions. And it is not one part of the brain that is being used. So we absolutely, when we talk about mathematics, if we go underneath the concepts of mathematics, the brain is involved in every aspect. We talk about cognitive functions. So if we want to go that one layer down and look into the brain, we have to look at the cognitive functions that we are using when we do mathematics at school, or when we do mathematical problems, or finding solutions. What we are doing is bringing cognitive functions together. Now, cognitive functions are networks of the brain or regions of the brain that come together to perform a task. So in this case, there are networks or regions of the brain coming together to solve mathematical problems. Cognitive functions work on a continuum, as you see here on the screen. Cognitive functions can work at a superior level. They can work at an average level. They can underperform. So all the way to very severe, to put words to it. And what we also know about our brains, because they're so complex, not everyone has all functions working at one level. Each function works along that continuum. So each of us has what we call a unique cognitive profile. Some of us could have functions that are working at a superior end. Some people could have functions, and the same person could have functions working that are very severe or average. So they're not always working evenly. And these are some of the cognitive functions. These are probably our top 9 cognitive functions that we work on in Arrowsmith. And you'll see there, they all have different roles. I'll go into more mathematical ones in a moment. And we give these cognitive functions names that make sense on the functional level. And as I said, we all have unique cognitive profiles. So if each single, just like our fingerprints, actually, our brains have a unique cognitive profile. So now here are the cognitive functions that Arrowsmith can strengthen. Now let's have a look at which cognitive functions are used in mathematics. You will see here that there are 9 cognitive functions that we use in our brain when we are doing different mathematical tasks. Not all of them are used in one task, and sometimes all 9 are used. It does depend on the task that is being asked. So what I've tried to do is break down each of these cognitive functions and what it looks like when we're using these functions in mathematical problems. Now, I have to say this is not a precise science here, because we are never using just one cognitive function. So when I show you these are being used in conjunction with other functions, but I've tried to break these down so that you understand where these cognitive functions are being used in mathematics. So let's go through them. Symbol relations is probably the most critical cognitive function that we use in our everyday. We use symbol relations in every task we do. And that's because it is responsible for understanding. It is about understanding new information that comes into our brain, understanding what that means, that comprehension, and then adding that to information we already know. It's a very complex process that happens in the brain. And actually, we need this process to work very quickly if we want to do certain tasks that we're undertaking. Now, in mathematics, where this comes into play predominantly is when we're trying to understand various concepts. So in its simplest form, we see that we need our symbol relations cognitive function working well when we do fractions, because we might understand what one thing is, or the number one, or we might know the numeral one, and we might know what two things are, or the numeral two, again, different. When we put those two numerals in a fraction, it actually means something different. And one part of two, meaning a half, is very different than the concept of one and the concept of two. So we're pulling concepts together and putting those concepts in relationship. That's where symbol relations is used in mathematics. And then again, not only do we say a half and expect someone to understand what a half is, but then we say that's equal to 2/4. And 2 and 4, you might understand 2 and you might understand 4, but that does not mean you understand 2/4. Another way we use symbol relations function here is saying a half is bigger than 1/100th. Again, you might understand what 100 is, and you might understand that to be a very large number, but not when we put it in relationship with a 1 in a fraction. So this is a very, as I said, the most critical cognitive function we use in our lives, and in mathematics helps us understand these difficult concepts and helps us build that relationship in concepts. Let's have a look at the next cognitive function, symbol recognition. This is a fairly simple concept to understand. It is us recognizing visual symbols. And these are symbols that then are related to words and in letters, right? So in letters, we use it in reading. In mathematics, we have to be able to recognize symbols. So I put some symbols there that we expect our students or ourselves to understand in mathematics. So that's a different cognitive function. Here's the third cognitive function, quantification sense. Quantification sense is that function is responsible for understanding or having a sense of number. So if we know what is 4, we kind of have that understanding about what 4 is. Quantification sense is also responsible for mental calculation. So it's like the calculator in our brain, but it's not written and it's not heard. It is happening. It's a process that happens in our brain. It's a function that happens here, and it's that mental calculation. So we use this function many, many times. One in a very everyday example, when we pay for something, we mentally calculate how much change am I going to get. So that is a very simple understanding of what that is. Let's have a look at the next cognitive function, predicative speech. Predicative speech is the cognitive function that is responsible for understanding sequential logic or procedures. So things happen in a procedure, and that is a sequential logic. So in mathematics, where we use this cognitive function of procedures such as long division, which has a procedural logic to it. It's a logical sequence. And I just put an example there of what that procedure is in long division. But this is not just the only example that we use predicative speech in mathematical procedures. Then we have another cognitive function. It's called we call it memory for information and instruction. And that is retaining or remembering unrelated pieces of information. So in a mathematical example I have here, it's a word problem. Now, I can promise you we are not only using memory for information here, we are also using symbol relations. We're using that quantification set. There's many cognitive functions that go into a word problem. But if I want to pull it out here in this word problem, we're expecting someone to remember unrelated pieces of information. Pizza, first, second, half, quarter, mathematicians. These are unrelated pieces of information that have to be held in the brain to solve that problem in conjunction with other functions. And then we have motor symbol sequencing. Motor symbol sequencing is responsible for learning automated motor plans. Now, this shows up if someone has this week underperforming in an example like this. If you hear something like you're making careless errors, it could look like this. If you have a look at that example on the screen, 210 plus 50, the student has written 710, which is obviously not correct. But that's a careless error. It could be classed as a careless error. Actually, it's an automated motor plan error. There's a tracking and there's a writing component of that. Let's have another look. Let's have a look at the last three cognitive functions. Symbolic thinking. This is part of our executive function. Symbolic thinking happens in the prefrontal cortex on the left-hand side, and that's planning and operating in language. And in a mathematical task like this, the question mark here in this question is here on this scale. What we're asking students to do is plan how to solve this problem. They have to weigh up what the options are and try them out. So that is executive functioning. That is what we call symbolic thinking, planning and organizing in language. This is what is being done here. Then we have another cognitive function that is called lexical memory. This is like the filing cabinet in our brain that pulls out names of things. So names, for example, of shapes and symbols. That's lexical memory. And then the last cognitive function that we use is object recognition. So it's a bit like symbol recognition that I talked about before, where we're looking at symbols, but actually it's a different function in our brain that recognizes objects. And in mathematics, those objects are things like shapes. And so we use that. But in life, it could be faces, for example, is also an object. So these are the functions that are responsible for our children and for us to do mathematical tasks. But I want to have a look at reading, and today is not the time to talk about reading, but I want to show you these cognitive functions in reading. You'll see here that many of the cognitive functions that I talked about in mathematics are also being used in reading. And they're also being used in writing. And now we have different webinars to talk about those areas, but I did want to highlight them here, that these cognitive functions that I showed in mathematics are not just being used in mathematics. We use them right across all the tasks we do each day. And if I relate them back to the 21st century learning skills, all of those cognitive functions that I've talked about for mathematics are used across all of the 21st century learning skills. So these are cognitive functions are so critical in our lives that they are working as they should. So what is dyscalculia? Let's have a look at that. This is a term, or it's a diagnosis that many students are given if they are having difficulties in mathematics. And it's a very particular part of mathematics. It is about remembering and understanding and manipulating numbers. Now, we've talked about aspects of mathematics that are not related to numbers if you think about objects and things like that. So, but dyscalculia is all about numbers. So some of the features of dyscalculia are difficulty counting backwards, remembering math facts, slow to perform calculations, time management, place value when we're looking at decimals, mental calculations are difficult, and it's hard to grasp those numerical concepts. It can absolutely create maths anxiety. But if after I explain those cognitive functions to you, you will see that those cognitive functions turn up in these difficulties, in counting, in remembering facts, working out, being slow to perform calculations. All of those cognitive functions are being used in these tasks that show up in dyscalculia. What we do at Arrowsmith is we go under the labels of diagnoses, and in this case, dyscalculia. So we go underneath those and see what cognitive functions are implied in those diagnoses. And in this series of webinars, we'll look at some other diagnoses and we'll go under those labels as well. I won't labor on this anymore because I've already explained these cognitive functions. How do we know which cognitive functions are underperforming? Well, there's a number of ways that we can work that out. On our website, and you can take a snapshot of this screenshot if you like, of this screen right now. On our website, you will be able to access a cognitive questionnaire. It takes about 20 to 30 minutes to fill out. And what you might, what it will tell you is where your cognitive functions are, or your child's cognitive function. Please feel free to do it for yourself, do it on other people, and do it for your child as well, or any students, any teachers that are here, you could do it for students. And this will give you an understanding about what that cognitive profile is. Now, it isn't our Arrowsmith cognitive assessment, but it's because it's a self-report sort of survey or questionnaire. If you want to go into more in-depth, an Arrowsmith cognitive assessment will actually assess the different cognitive functions and where they are on that scale of functioning that I showed before. Let's hear from a parent who had a child with a dyscalculia diagnosis. And if you can't hear it, please let me know, and I think I did share my audio, but we'll hope that this works.
We've come to Arrowsmith because Isabel's really struggled through her entire school career. She's 12 and particularly struggles with maths, but has struggled with everything through her life, with anything to do with education, working memory, all of those sorts of things. Through the traditional education system, being told, I think, to accept how Isabel is, and that she's always going to struggle and she can't tell the time, she's got no idea of money, and yet deep down for us, we felt there was more there with Isabel. We didn't think that it necessarily reflected her true level of intelligence and grasp. And so we stumbled upon Arrowsmith and this summer intensive, and we thought, well, we'll give it a shot. So we've come to Toronto for 6 weeks to see how we go. What we've seen this week is a really, in a number of areas, a really interesting improvement. We're starting to see a lot more reasoning. So we're seeing some gains in mathematics. Basic things. Isabel could never really understand the concept of money, or that there was 100 cents in a dollar, and she's getting that now. She's talking in fractions now, which she never did. She's talking about 30 seconds is half a minute, 15 seconds is a quarter, and she never used fractions because she never understood them, and she's suddenly getting that. She said to me on the train on the way here, she said, gee, I never believed that this could happen, that I could make these sort of changes. It was like there was a little flame inside her that was fluttering, and it's a real glow inside her now. There's this real little burn in her of confidence, and we're seeing it for the first time because she's a kid that's never had confidence. She's never gone to school and said, yeah, I can do this. She's always gone to school with an anxiety attached all the time that she's not going to understand, She's come here and she suddenly gets it. She's suddenly understanding what's being given to her. This is the last day in the graduation ceremony, so to speak. And it's been a fantastic experience. What we're doing, these targeted changes and exercises we do, does change the brain. If you don't believe in neuroplasticity, you will after you experience this. And I can only say to parents who would be thinking to come to a summer intensive, as we've experienced, just do it. Just do it.
So that cognitive intensive program that Mark was talking about, it works on the symbol relations cognitive function. So that's just one of the cognitive functions that we talked about, but I did say it's one of the most critical functions that students need in their lives, and definitely in mathematics, as you heard from Mark there. So what is Arrowsmith? I'll quickly go through this. Arrowsmith is what we call a cognitive program. It's a cutting edge program. It's one of the first cognitive programs that were available for humans in the world. And it's designed using the principles of science, the neuroplastic science that's been around for more than half a century now. And it continues to be backed by science, by researchers investigating the outcomes of students in the program. It uses the principles of neuroplasticity, as I talked about. And neuroplasticity is about changing the brain, targeting and strengthening the brain to learn more efficiently and effectively. Neuroplasticity in its purest form is about changing the brain. It is not fixed. The brain can change its physical structure and its functional organization by very targeted stimulation. And Arrowsmith works using those principles of neuroplasticity, which I have on the screen here. So very targeted differentiated stimulation. And we stimulate each of the cognitive functions. We don't work on general stimulation. We work on targeting those very specific cognitive functions that I talked about previously. Students, the program is designed to capture students' attention. And one of the great components of this is that we have trained facilitators that work with students. We also need students to engage in the exercises. So again, facilitators are really important there, but also the design of the exercise is to keep their engagement. And we actually give them feedback on how long they've been engaged in a certain period of time. And teachers also have that data at their fingertips. We also need students to be processing effortlessly. So we don't give them anything that is too easy, and we never give them anything that's too hard. Quite often, students that come to Arrowsmith, if they do have learning challenges, are used to doing tasks that are too hard for them. At Arrowsmith, we give them something that is challenging their brain, because that is how the brain will change. It isn't too hard. It is at the point where we know they are going to succeed. They can master the task that they're being given. And then once they master it, the next principle here is we increase the complexity. Because again, by mastering it, it's going to become easy for the brain. So we have to increase that complexity of the task so the brain is processing effortfully again. And the other component of neuroplasticity is that the task has to be novel. It can't be something that they're used to doing. Arrowsmith is what we call a capacity-based program. Unlike other programs that might be strength-based or skill-based or strategy-based. Actually, we're a capacity-based program because we actually change the capacity of the learner. We change the learner, not go around and put in modifications or accommodations or tools or strategies. We actually change the brain of the learner. In fact, it's not us that are doing it, it's the students that are doing it. Only the students can change their brain. We can facilitate that change. Here are some high-level concepts. There's a lot of research results for Arrowsmith, but here are some high-level concepts, research outcomes. Improved cognitive and academic performance, increased independence, self-directed learning, increase in emotional and social well-being, increase in independence and daily living skills, increased rate of learning. We see a shift to a growth mindset. They go from I can't to I can. They have an increased locus of control or agency in their own lives. We see an increase in attention, listening, and focus. Arrowsmith has been in operation for over 46 years, and it's used around the world. So I'm going to hand over to Emma now, who can jump in and talk about Arrowsmith, which is being now implemented at the Developing Child Centre. Please go ahead, Emma.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. So we are very lucky to have 3 qualified trained Arrowsmith teachers for TDCC. We are now offering 3 different classes, one at 7 a.m, one at 4 a.m, and 4 p.m, not 4 a.m, 4 p.m and 5 p.m. So there is limited spaces, and we have got students already started. If anybody is interested, you can contact the centre to discuss. Liberty will be able to talk you through the questionnaire and any questions you might have. And then if you feel that your child or yourself, because we have got adults that are doing the course, not just children, if you feel that Arrowsmith is a suitable fit, then we will book you in for an assessment. And like Debbie said, it's a bit deeper. Well, it's a lot deeper than the questionnaire. The questionnaire just gives you a general idea of what your cognitive profile would be like. The assessment goes a lot deeper. It is a 6-hour assessment, but we tend to do over 3 2-hour periods just to break it down so that we're not, because it is very tiring, obviously, we're testing all your cognitive functions. So yeah, it's 6 hours, and then after that we're able to give you the in-depth feedback on your profile, your learning profile, and from there, as Debbie had mentioned before, you're rated on a scale of what's very severe, moderate, and depending on each individual, it'll be a very different kind of report. And what we tend to do is we would work on the very severe or that's below average. Anything that's below average, you would be recommended to work on those cognitive functions first. It is not a quick fix program. It's something that you need to really invest in, because anything that's changing you is going to take a bit of time. There is small things that can be noticed, changing in behaviour, small changes along the way, but you will, once you've done your assessment, usually after a year, you're reassessed on the cognitive function that you have been working on to see the progress, and you're able to see for yourself. But in that time, we've got students that have done the programme, and we've told parents and like nannies or anybody that's around the children to take notes and small things that they notice that are a change, because as you know, when changes happen, we're all celebrating them, but quickly they become the new normal. So it's very important to note these changes, because then soon you're like, oh, that's because she's working on her symbol relations, the anxiety is going down, she's able to see the bigger picture, she'd be able to relate, okay, that's why that's happening. So it really is an amazing programme. And myself, I've been lucky enough to go to Canada, see children I work with do the intensive programme, meet the team in Canada. So it's really amazing, and I've seen it do wonderful things. So very happy to be an advocate for Arrowsmith, and we're very, very excited to have it at TDCC. So just to reiterate, if anybody is interested, wants an informal chat, a free consultation, more than happy to phone the centre and speak to myself, or Liberty will answer any general questions, and anything more I can speak to them. But yeah, so thank you, Debbie, for coming on.
Thanks, Emma. Thanks so much. And hang by because there might be some questions that come up in our question period. So now it's questions, and some questions came through. So I do want to address a couple at first, and then while I'm doing this, please add your questions into the chat. Just before I answer questions, if you're interested, Jo Bowler from Stanford University she's a mathematician and talks about using neuroplasticity in mathematics. This is her book and this is her website. So please feel free to have a look at that. She actually mentions Arrowsmith in her book. So I put these questions that came from parents all together. How can we make children realize maths is an easy subject? How can students love mathematics? How can we change them from thinking maths is difficult to fun and easy? How can we boost their confidence? How can we reduce maths fear? To me, all of that is all around having strong cognitive functions in mathematics. If you are experiencing success in mathematics, you're not going to be fearful. You're going to have fun. You're going to be able to do it quickly. It's going to come easily. If those cognitive functions are working as they should, then the confidence is there. Maths is fun. Another set of questions that I put together are about students who have learning challenges or particular diagnoses. This is where having a look at their cognitive profile is really important, because students with ADHD who are diagnosed with ADHD and have mathematical problems, students that are struggling, students with dyslexia, we need to go underneath those labels. We need to see where those cognitive functions are performing. And by strengthening those cognitive functions, then mathematics will be helped. And likely attention and reading and literacy as well. And another group of questions I put together were about exams, practicing for exams, and optimizing mathematical learning. We all, as I said, have different cognitive profiles. Now, students can be performing really, really well in mathematics, and we want to enhance that. So we absolutely can enhance that ability in mathematics or performance in mathematics. We can help their processing speed increase. We can increase their attention. We can increase their focus. By strengthening the symbol relations cognitive function, that absolutely will help students in the speed with which they can do, understand and do mathematical exams and their tasks at school. So that's why I put all of those questions together. But now I'm open to hearing from you or answering other questions. So let me just open my screen here a little bit further and see if you have questions. Hang on. I can't see any questions here. I've got, I'm having trouble seeing the questions here. Hang on one second. Here we are. This is what I wanted to see. I can't see any questions in there right now. Does anyone have anything that they would like to, or I'm not certain if you can unmute, but if you can, feel free to ask them.
So thank you, Debbie, for the beautiful presentation. Anyone who would like to ask Debbie, if you have any questions, please, you can unmute or drop them in the chat box.
Or even any questions about the Developing Child Centre and the program they're offering, please feel free to ask that too. In the meantime, what I might do is, what I might do is just remind everyone about our series of webinars. We have another one in 2 weeks, and that one's on memory. So you might like to sign up for that. I think Mylene will tell you a little bit more about that. A question just popped in. Can you tell us the fee? That is hard to answer here, and because it depends on what program is being done at the center. So that's probably a better question to ask either via email or in a question with Liberty. So I would suggest that you do that. And I've got the details up on the screen here so that you have those contact details to contact Emma, Liberty at the center, or on WhatsApp as well. Any other questions that you might have?
Hello, Debbie. I think everything is clear. Everything,
Good.
all the presentation is very comprehensive, and I think they understood it. And all the questions that we received from the registrations are, I think that you already addressed them during the presentation. Yeah.
Okay. I'll
So
stop sharing my screen then.
yes, please. So we'll just share the announcement from TDCC. So anyone who has any questions, further question about the topic or the Aerosmith program here in TDCC or in the Middle East, because it's online, please do email us. Thank you, David. I'm going to share my screen now for our announcement.
We would like to take this chance to share with you some updates from TDCC.
Welcome to TDCC Abu Dhabi. The Early Intervention Program at the Developing Child Center in Abu Dhabi is dedicated to meeting the unique needs of children aged 3 to 8 years old. Our program seamlessly integrates educational learning with therapeutic strategies to address each child's individual developmental needs. By fostering each child's strengths and addressing any areas of difficulty, we aim to bridge developmental gaps and support their journey towards achieving their full potential. Everyone is welcome.
Caregiver training. This program focuses on developing knowledge, skills, and values necessary to provide quality care for children of determination. The training will cover topics such as the basic needs of the child, communication strategies, understanding behavior, and sensory needs, social and play skills, and fostering independence and home routines. This is facilitated by experienced and committed educators in the Inclusive Education Services led by Amina Shazib, psychologist and head of Inclusive Education Services.
Admission for academic year 2024 to 2025 is still open for children aged 4 to 14 years old. This is a unique program integrating both educational learning and therapeutic strategies designed for children with learning difficulties. We provide early intervention programs, preschool intervention, life skills, and school readiness program.
Eating therapy. This therapy session helps children who are struggling to eat. Our therapists provide evidence-based approaches on how to make mealtime enjoyable that would eventually end mealtime struggle. Spot therapy combines speech-language and occupational therapy for children, offering enhanced attention, improved social skills, integrated language, and communication development to children, and consistent support for parents and caregivers. Sensory integration therapy. This is an evidence-based approach that benefits children beyond autism. Our therapists create a sensory-rich environment using specialized equipment. This therapy focuses on developing a strong sensory system, which is crucial for motor skills, executive functions, and behavior. Thematis listening therapy. This is a transformative auditory training therapy available for children and young adults. This therapy listening method has been proven effective in enhancing attention skills and communication abilities. Neurofeedback therapy. At TDCC, we specialize in neurofeedback therapy for children and young adults. It promotes mental well-being in young individuals with anxiety, depression, ADHD, and many more. Visual perception therapy. In this therapy, children improve their visual processing skills through specialized activities and exercises. It enhances visual discrimination, tracking, and spatial awareness, leading to improved academic performance and coordination. This is tailored to each child's needs. It promotes independence and success in daily life. Spider cage therapy. This is a transformative intervention for children designed to address motor challenges and sensory integration difficulties. This therapy optimizes motor skills, coordination, balance, and sensory processing to foster the overall development of children. Our handwriting program is available in Arabic, English, and French. Children who are struggling to write legibly can benefit from this program. TDCC is home to highly skilled dyslexia and literacy specialists who conduct personalized assessments to identify specific challenges individuals face with reading, writing, and spelling. We use evidence-based strategies and interventions, and develop tailored plans to improve phonological awareness, decoding skills, and spelling abilities. Flourishing and leadership for the youth. This is a resilience-based program designed and delivered by a social behavior counseling expert, Kipa Shrestha, for children aged 7-12 years old. The FLY children will learn positive self-talk, mindfulness practices, and gratitude practices. By the end of the 5-week workshop, they will have developed the necessary skills and character traits to face challenges with resilience and lead a flourishing life. Educational psychology. Our expert psychologists provide educational assessments and schools observations using evidence-based tools and strategies to help parents and schools make informed decisions about the students' education. Counseling services. At TDCC, our psychologists incorporate proven cognitive-based therapy and practical strategies and solutions to support children, adolescents, and their families to meet family objectives. Parenting services. The parenting services focus on specific challenges related to child development, behavior management, and communication. It empowers parents and caregivers with the tools in helping children achieve a happy, healthy, and well-adjusted life.
TDCC offers the Aerosmith program and is now accepting reservations. Contact TDCC for more information.
If interested in any of these programs, please contact us. Have a screenshot with our contact details. You can also share this to your friends and to anyone who needs support. Thank you for joining us today. For updates of the next webinar, training, and services, please scan these core codes. Follow us on social media. Visit our website for more information and booking of appointments.